Hello everyone, and today I will be talking about my story as a competitive Loomian Legacy player in Ace Season 4. The Ace server is a competitive PvP server that runs a lot of different PvP events, weekly tourneys, draft leagues, and for this story, a season tournament. As a Loomian Legacy content creator, I haven't joined one of these tourneys since the last season of TLS, and we all know how that ended, with the server deletion and everyone being part of it being left in the dust. So this is my first time competing in competitive Loomian Legacy PvP since TLS. And how did it go? Well, I won. Well, okay, I wasn't the only one that won, but it was a team of 9 other people that was with me along the way. Despite this, I wanted to fully explain the full story of what happened during the season, some of the most interesting team I built, and some of the events that happened that led up to me winning Ace Season 4. So this is the beginning of my road to Ace Season 4. This story starts in February 2026, when the Ace League draft happens. I had no interest in joining a competitive Loomian Legacy League at this point, as I was focused on a lot of other stuff at the time, like focusing on creating my second YouTube channel, finding a job, and playing with my friends in the Faraverse. While the Ace draft was going on, Nico and Kilson were building a team, but they couldn't get anyone else to join this team. This was due to lack of Loomian Legacy players because most of the pro Loomian Legacy players have quit the game because of lack of updates. Kilson and Nico would join the Faraverse and ask whether or not I should join the Ace League. I was hesitant because competitive Loomian Legacy can be very stressful, but I caved in and joined the team to fill out the roster. I was planning to leave right after joining, but decided to stay because I wanted to see how I can actually do in this meta, and see how I could compete with some of the top Loomian Legacy players in this game. Not to mention that the team I was chosen on was one of the top teams going into the season. The Flawless Falkyries, the team was called, was ran by Nico and vice-captained by Kilson. Had so many players that proved themselves in the past, and they were all extremely helpful during our run. Let's talk about the Flawless Falkyries real quick. Nico. He was the captain of the team, and he is one of the top Loomian Legacy players right now. He was competing for the Season 4 champion spot, and has been part of many tournament wins in the past. He helped with a lot of our team building, and coached me in several battles during the season. Kilson. He is the vice captain, he got top 25 multiple times, and is one of the top Loomian Legacy content creators, especially when it comes to building teams. He is also one of the most experienced players on our team, just like Nico. Elena. He was drafted early by Nico, and wasn't really known before the Ace season started. But he proved to not only be one of our best players, but also one of the best players in the entire league once the season finished. He also coached me and my teammates in several battles, so he was also really good for the rest of the team as well. The Kel. He was the only player during Ace Season 4 to play more than 5 matches and end the season undefeated, and this even included matches during the playoffs. Pan. He was one of the most underrated players on our team. He played well during the season, had some huge wins, but was extremely clutch in the playoffs. He had huge wins when we really needed it the most. Ash was undefeated during the regular season and was in contention for the league MVP, Segmented Crossbird. Part of the Faraverse and Mellow Meta, another good player who would join me on the Funaries in the N-Hype League. Controller, well-known Loomian Legacy player, really well-known in the PvP community, and was also the Air Win champ, getting 4 Air Wins this season. J-Money. He was one of our best players during the regular season, and he was our MVP going into the playoffs, until something happened. We'll get into that in a little bit. Cool Bros. He would replace J-Money and would not only go undefeated during the playoffs, but he would also win one of the biggest games of the season. That also happened to be one of the best Loomian Legacy games I've ever seen, but again, we'll talk about that later. And of course, Joshua Star 77, the guy who makes funny YouTube videos. Yeah, that was the team, nicknamed the Flawless Falkyries, and we are here to prove that we are the best team in the entire league. Several other teams are also in this league, and if y'all are curious on what the other rosters are, here's the screenshots of the other teams in the league. Now, let's head into the games. In week 1, we faced the Unyielding Ursouls. My opponent was Cotton Stoops, a Loomian Legacy content creator who has made some of the best PvP guides on the entire platform. Despite being one of the best content creators when it comes to making guides, he is also really rusty, as this was one of the first tournament matches he will ever have in a long time. This was the Battle of the Unks, and we will see which one comes out on top. Thankfully, I already had a team in the wings, and this involved a Loomian that was heavily slept on heading into the tournament. Protogon. Protogon has always been a mon that struggles because of how many mons prepare for its analyzed attack boosts, but with specialty goggles, +1 range attack boost, and Dark Burst potentially hitting 10 times, made Protogon a super dangerous threat. This is also even more dangerous when paired with Ikazune, as they could both pivot out of bad matchups while also dealing insane damage of their own. The Ikazune set was also boost, but instead of the last move being Energy Surge to hit Ancient types, I ran Blaze of Glory to specifically hit Plasmoth and Venolens for decent damage, as both of those Loomians were pretty common in that meta. Other mons I paired with them are Luminami as a full Flash and pivoter, Venusaur as one of the top melee attackers in the game, Solnecta as a setup sweeper with Magnified Lightning Ray, Gargoyle Defense for barbs and hazard removal, and Specialty Gloves Tata to add a Flash and blocker for the team, while also dealing major damage. Thankfully, I still have the team code for this team, so the team code for this team will be in the description below if you want to try this team out. Looking at Stoops' team, this is a great matchup for me. Loomians like Dragodyne and Garlash are tricky because they can do heavy damage for my team, and I don't really have a switch in. But Cotton Stoops doesn't have a single Zip-Zap blocker, meaning Protogon and Ikazune can run rampant on his team. He does have Pyroland though that can live a lot of hits, especially with Dyborg who can set up screens. But overall, I have the matchup advantage into this match. I decided to lead with Protogon to get some early damage onto his team, but he decided to lead with the Charge Arc Plasmoth. I decided to switch into Ikazune as Stoops clicks Zip Zap, giving me an advantage early. Some repositioning happens, with Stoops revealing Ursouls and Colossotrops, and me revealing Venusaur. Venusaur and Colossotrops is scary because Colossotrops has the Rainful Plushie item, and after getting a Frail Armor boost, it outspeeds everything on my team, and can knock out every mon in one hit. Since my Venusaur was Cuffs, I barely missed the OHKO on Colossotrops. I decided to scout what Stoops would do, and got a Barb Trap Poison on the Colossotrops. We switch our moms out, with Luminami coming in on my side versus Stoops' Dyborg. Dyborg sets up for enchantment to protect his team as he switches into Garlash. I get pinned. Gargoyle Defense doesn't do much to Garlash, and the rest of my team takes heavy damage from its predicted moves. I switch into Lumi on an Aqua Jaws, and then click Flash and Fleet to pivot off of it, reposition yet again, and we get my Protogon on Stoops' Colossotrops. He stays in predicting my Zip Zap, predicting Luminami with Temper Thrash, but Luminami lives because, you know, it's Luminami. I switch Protogon back in to Colossotrops, getting a ranged attack increase, but get hit by a super effective Earthquake. But with all the poison damage and the Temper Thrash recoil, the Colossotrops gets OHKO'd. Even better, Protogon also lives the Earthquake at yellow HP. Your snack comes into Icicle Traps, losing its tank, but I go for the Energy Surge play, getting a critical hit on your snack, knocking it out in one hit. And trust me, the crit mattered, as without it, your snack would have lived at red HP. My lead is huge at this point. I go Gargolem to set up hazards as Cotton Stoops doesn't bring Pyroland for some reason. He would give Bar Enchantment back up again and would go Garlash on Gargoyle Defense. And yeah, I do go Venusaur predicting Aquajaws, trying to secure the 5-0, but Stoops reads me and OHKOs my Venusaur with Vice Jaws. Despite the read, I go at Kizune to Zip Zap on the incoming Dyborg, which critical hits through the enchantments. Without the Dyborg, the battle is over, as nothing can stop my Ikazune with Blaze of Glory. I go 1-0 in Ace League Season 4, getting my first league win in almost 2 years. I felt really good during that match, and put on the pressure the entire match. Our team would sweep that week as well, winning 7-0 and starting the league 1-0 as a team. In week 2, we faced the Villainous Venolens, and they had one of the best Loomian Legacy players of today, Pid with Robloxians. Pid is not only the ranked Season 2 champion, not only has he won multiple Ace Weeklies, but he's also someone I know very well from the Faraverse, and he is also my Achilles heel. Before that battle versus Pid, I was on a losing streak so large that I lost count on how many times I lost in a row. I predicted to be like 14 to 15 times. This will be one of my toughest weeks yet. The team I built was a strong gust team with clutch plushie Whipple Drift. The clutch plushie is used over the wind scale, so I can be a lot more reckless with my Whipple Drift instead of worry about it dying in one hit. Not to mention, I can also do stuff like haste and an ice type attack, and then make Whipple Drift a late game cleaner. I used this with Soulburst Dragodine and Venolens because they work very well with strong gusts, and I decided to fill the rest of the holes by adding Tyrex to take on Ronsador and Soulburst Stratosaur, Serenite, which not only works as a hazard setter, but also with some speed investments to stop hazards with the move Provoke. The last two mons I added to the team were last minute add-ons like Chartiki to remove hazards and switch into Flash and Flame more consistently, and Morphezu, who is one of the strongest range attackers in the entire game. I unfortunately don't have the team code on this one, but I'll try to make a version of this team that y'all can use. Pid's team is bulky balanced, which is very good for me. A strong gust can clean up teams like this one, but there are some very problematic mons on Pid's side. Ronsador, while under strong gust, can do some extreme damage and can even overload the Tyrex if not careful. Not to mention that Soulburst Dakuda is also going to be a problem if I make the wrong reads against that. Despite that, this matchup is like 50-50. It can go either way. The battle starts with Morphezu lead on my part on his Ronsador. He switches Ronsador out into Pyrolin as Metal Blast bounces off the Pyrolin. I switch Morphezu out into Venolens as Pid switches into Gremlin. Venom Slash looks good into Gremlin, but Pid switches into Tyranix, which takes almost nothing from the Venom Slash. Despite the lack of damage though, I do catch a poison, which gives me a huge advantage. I Barb Trap to scout Pid's next play as he crits Fade Away, making him waste energy while I also make the Tyranix take more poison chip. I switch into Tyrex as Pid Flash and Flees and Tyranix out into Gremlin. He doubles Gremlin out into Dakuda as I switch Tyrex out into Serenite. Soulburst Dakuda is pinning my Serenite as a Tsunami can one-shot not only my Serenite, but also my Tyrex, while Electroblast can pretty much nuke any of my other mon. I switch Venolens into Soulburst Dakuda, and Thunderstrike does over half of Venolens' HP, despite being a resistant hit. I mean, at least he didn't click Electroblast. Pid switches Dakuda out into Tyranix, as I click Venom Slash under Tyranix yet again. I make a bold play, switching Whipple Drift on Tyranix, and Pid goes for Flash and Flee, which is perfect, because not only does Whipple Drift block the Flash and Flee, but it also makes Whipple Drift conserve its clutch plushie for later in the match. Tyranix switches out into Pyrolin, as Whipple Drift's Typhoon does a third to Pyrolin's health. I switch Whipple Drift out into Morphezu, as Pyrolin's Fire Breath barely misses the 2-shot on Morphezu. We stall out each other's energy before Pid switches Tyranix back in, recontrolling the weather, and my Typhoon misses! That's the power of an 80% move right there. I Typhoon on the Tyranix again, and I hit it this time, knocking the Tyranix out. The Demon Soulburst Dakuda comes back in, and now I have a 50-50 I have to make. Will Pid use the Soul Move, or will it click Tsunami? Tsunami can be called to predict Tyrex coming in, but Venolens lives that hit and OHKOs it in return. But Electro Shot knocks out Venolens, and anything else on my team not named Tyrex cannot live this hit. I make the play, I switch Morphezu out into Tyrex, and I block an incoming Thunderstrike from Soulburst Dakuda. He switches Dakuda out into Gremlin, as Tyrex's Earthquake deals a fourth of Gremlin's HP. I switch out Tyrex into Serenite, and Gremlin goes for the Gnarly Gash, predicting Morphezu coming in. With the Terrifying debuff, Gremlin only does a fifth of my Serenite's HP. Pid will reposition, bringing Pyrolin in on Serenite's Boiling Crest. Pid tries to rejuvenate on Pyrolin, but I show the rare Provoke Serenite that stops Pyrolin's rejuvenate and it keeps the Pyrolin below half health. This will be very important later in the match. I switch Serenite out, bringing Morphezu back in, and Pid reads this. It goes back into Soulburst Dakuda. I do then stay in with Morphezu this time. And guess what? My Morphezu outspeeds his Soulburst Dakuda, and its Psycho Blast does half the Soulburst Dakuda's HP. Even better, Pid doesn't Electro Shot, but he Tsunamis, leaving my Morphezu alive at 35 HP. I Psycho Blast again, and chip the Gremlin down to red HP as well. I sack my Morphezu to the Gremlin as I bring in my clutch plushie Whipple Drift. Pid switches Gremlin out into Pyrolin, but two Typhoons takes out the Pyrolin. Pid brings in Rancidor, which leads to me switching Whippledrift out into Tyrex, which takes a wind-boosted Muck Blast. He switches Rancidor out into Gremlin, and Tyrex's Earthquake knocks out the Gremlin. With a 4-2 Loomian lead on Pid, and with Whippledrift's Clutch Plushie still intact, I clean up the game with Tyrex, winning against one of the top Loomian Legacy players in the game. Not only do I lose my losing streak versus Pid, but this also puts me 2-0 for the league. And that officially ends my losing streak versus Pid. For now. Another one might start, but this isn't the end for Pid in the story, as he will return later. The Flawless Falkyries continue to be flawless, as we win the week 6-1, starting the season 2-0 as a team. In week 3, we face the Inferior Circus. My opponent is Hasty Nasty. He is a well-known PvP player who I faced in the past. After beating Pid the week before, I feel very confident going with the same team in week 3, but I decided to use the same team. The only changes I made was switching Seer Knight up for Malevolence. This Malevolence does the same thing my Seer Knight did in week 2, set up barbs and prevent other mods from removing them with Provoke. This Malevolence also has Incinerate for the Himber matchup, so this makes it so I can disable its fire type and live the Yeti's Wrath from Himber. As the battle starts, my heart sinks. Hasty is using a hyper offensive team, with Hazard stacking Inferior, Haste and Dusket, and Gargolem Attack? Yes, Gargolem Attack is allowed in the Ace League. So the Ace League has something called Complex Fans, and Gargolem Attack is allowed as long as it's not the Berserk ability. This is the same case with Brunkata as well, as Rush Hour Brunkata is allowed, but Power Legs isn't. This sucks for me, because my matchup into Sober Strat, Haste and Dusket, and Gargolem Attack is an auto loss. I decided to play the matchup anyway and lead Malevolence into the Inferior lead. On the first turn, Inferior sets up Barbs, while I click the 130 base power Incinerate, but unfortunately I miss out on the Oko. An Oko on Inferior would give me a Loomian lead early, with only one layer of Barbs up, and Hasty punishes me. I switch Malevolence out into Venolens as Inferior barters Heavy Shackles into my Venolens, making it a sitting duck for the rest of the game. He sacrifices his Inferior with Tribute, and despite being up a mon, my Venolens is a deadweight for the rest of the game. I am completely out of position, and this gives Gargolem Attack a free switch in. I decide to scout a move, and Gargolem Attack clicks. Oh my goodness, I can't speak. But I decided to scout the move Gargolem Attack does, and by clicking Barb Trap, this proves to be a good play, as Gargolem Attack clicks an early dash. This is huge because the poison on Gargolem Attack potentially gets rid of a potential Clutch Plushie. I sag Venolens to Gargolem Attack next turn, and I switch into my Clutch Plushie Whippledrift. The problem is that I am forced to attack, because one Hasten would make me do more damage to Strat, but I risk a Jetstream speed drop. And I don't Oko Sober Strat at +1 anyway. Gargolem Attack uses Gnarly Gash on my Whippledrift, bringing it down to Clutch Plushie, while my Whippledrift's Nature's Force on the Gargolem Attack picks up the Oko. Unfortunately, not setting up a Hasten means that his Boots Scarlash outspeeds me, which leads to his Garlash catching my Whippledrift. Despite the Loomian count being even, I have nothing for the Garlash. I switch into Chartiki hoping I can knock out the Garlash with Muck Blast, but he switches it out into Dusket. Dusket sets up a Hasten as I switch Chartiki into Malevolence. The next turn determines the match. Dusket uses Spectral Burst on Malevolence, but it lives at 26 HP. But I lose, because Fade Away on Malevolence doesn't even get Dusket into the red, despite being a quad effective hit. I switch into Tyrex, but this game is over, as I have nothing to outspeed the +1 Dusket. Tyrex lives the +1 Pyrokinesis from Dusket, but Tyrex is too low to live from Sober Strat later in the game. Hasty goes to the Garlash, and it claims an Oko on my Malevolence. My Chartiki switches in, and my Muck Blast gets blocked by Stratosaur. Stratosaur Soul Burst and cleans up the game. I lose week 3, and my record drops to 2-1. Despite the loss, I played decently well and actually put up a good fight in a nightmare matchup. And my team clutches up as well, as we win the week 5-2, starting the season 3-0 as a team. Week 4 was our bye week, and we were the top team in our division when the bye week ended. Our team was so dominant that there were more weeks played in Ace League than we had total losses at that point, as we were through 4 weeks and the team only had 3 total losses. That's how dominant we were. Week 5 starts, and I sat on the bench that week. I was busy that week, and I was trying to get my first job. I had a lot of interviews, and I just had a lot going on. So I decided to sit on the bench for week 5. We played the Sachi Snipers in week 5, and despite me sitting on the bench, our team would win that week as well, 5-2. Bringing our record to 4-0 for the season, and this sets up our week 6 match for the Thawman Trailblazers, who are the only undefeated team left other than us. At this point, I really enjoyed Ace League, and I was excited to see what I was going to do next. But then, week 6 happened. Week 6 has started, and the Thawman Trailblazers are at our doorsteps. We are both 4-0 teams facing each other, and my opponent is the owner of the Ace server himself, BBM. BBM is the person that runs everything on the server, and he literally does everything. He is also the captain of the Thawman Trailblazers, so this was going to be a tough battle no matter what happens. I tried to build a team heading into week 6, and I tried out something called Mycotic Valkyrie. My team has destroyed opponents with Mycotic Valkyrie teams all season, so I decided to join in on the fun. Even better, I made my Valkyrie set specific to beat Chartiki by adding Draft Shell Airblade to knock out the fat tree. I decided to do some test battles against Farrell, who is one of my friends from the Faraverse, and got traumatized by his heavy shield Monomer twice. After that, I dumped the team and built a brand new team from scratch. I decided to build a team around Thawman, who used to be one of the best offensive Loomians in the game before its foresight ability got nerfed. Despite that, Thawman had the coverage to still be very dangerous, and a priority 90 base power move is still insane. I decided to run a Power Cuff Thawman with Frost Beam to hit Bug types, Thunderstrike to hit Silver Strat, and Buck Blast to hit both Chartiki and Monomer. I combined Thawman with Sober's Hoganosh, whose Gorge ability eats up hazards, not to mention its coverage move in Baneful Bash also to hit the stupid trees. Tyrex was also added yet again to stop Sober Strat from sweeping me on this spot. Your Snack was added for both Pivot, Vesperado and Tatab were added to deal heavy damage, and Soul Nectar was included to set up with Magnify and Lightspeed Ray. I tested the team and it feels really good. I decided that I will use Thawman versus the Thawmans. How poetic is that? The battle starts against BBM, and the matchup looks like an auto loss. Gargolem attack and Sober Stratosaurus solos my entire flippin' team. Despite preparing for Chartiki all week, Chartiki is not on BBM's team. Instead, it's Vigorous Colossotrops, who can also hit everything on my team for super effective damage. This matchup is actually so bad that one of my teammates on call immediately called this a loss before the battle even started. This sucks.
We're cooked. We are absolutely cooked.
It's gonna be full on.
Even worse, I led Hoganosh as BBM leads Gargolem Attack. Gargolem Attack legit OHKOs me with any melee move it throws at me. But if it clicks a range move, Silver's Hoganosh can live. I expect this to be the clutch plushie Gargolem, so I expect to live the hit. But this Gargolem Attack isn't clutch plushie. It's a specialty goggles to boost its ranged attack by 50%. This makes it so Gargolem Jetstream has a 43.8% chance of OHKOing my Hoganosh. But sometimes, you don't need to be good at the game. Sometimes, you need the power of love and friendship. Hoganosh Soul Burst, and Gargolem Attack uses Jetstream. And my Soul Burst Hoganosh lives the hit! And it lives at 9 flippin' HP! Hoganosh OHKOs Gargolem Attack with a meltdown, and all of a sudden, Gargolem Attack, my biggest threat, is gone on turn 1. BBM switches into Colossotrops, and I sack my Hoganosh to get a free switch into Thawman. Colossotrops switches into Cleone, and my Thawman clicks Frost Beam, doing almost nothing. I then reveal that I'm not Specialty Goggles by clicking Muck Blast on Cleone's turn, getting it below half HP, while Cleone stratagems to get rid of my Foresight. Despite me losing the 90 base power priority move, it's fine because Silver Strat is the only Mon on BBM's team to outspeed Thawman, and it resists Psycho Blast anyway, so losing Foresight there wasn't the end of the world for me. I clicked Thunderstrike on Cleone trying to catch Stratosaur coming in, but BBM switches into Tyranics to set up with Fog. I switch Thawman out into my Solnecta as Tyranics goes for Fade Away, which is blocked. I click Magnify with Solnecta as a Frost Beam from Tyranics doesn't even do half to the bug. I click Feroblast next turn, but Feroblast barely misses the Oko. Solnecta though clutches up a save at 19 HP. I knock out Tyranics with Solnecta, BBM switches Cleone in. Cleone dies to +2 Feroblast, and BBM rage quits the game, giving me a win! I somehow won that, despite having one of the most one-sided matchups of all time. This puts me at 3-1 for the season. Even better, my team claps the Thawmans, winning the week 6-1, giving us a 5-0 record heading into the final week of the regular season. This was really huge for me, and winning against BBM made me realize one thing. BBM is a clown! After the battle, I sent a beam of Silver Targanosh and Solnecta carrying me to a win, and let's just say that BBM didn't take the loss that well. He was calling me trash in the game, calling me some words I don't even want to say in a YouTube video, and he was so salty, he would talk smack about me for not only the rest of the week, but BBM would be toxic to me for the rest of the season, and that's something he would continue to do to this day. This was shocking because BBM was the owner of the Ace server. He should be someone that should have really high authority in the server like Ace, but instead, he whines and cries like a baby anytime something doesn't go his way. Let's just say, at that point on, I did not want the Thawmans to win the league after that. And it just worse because not only do the Falkyries face the Thawmans again in week 7, but BBM also wants to rematch me, to prove everyone that I am bad at the game. Despite all of this, pressure was off. We clinched the bye week already for the playoffs, and we have an all-star team that legit hasn't taken more than 2 losses in a week yet. What could possibly go wrong? J-Money. He was one of our top players up to that point. He's played every single week, has won every single game he's played in, and he was the MVP of our team up to that point. But unfortunately, he was banned from the Ace server. Why? Well, it's because he called out BBM. Well, this is awkward. I needed to delete this part of the video because this part of the video was not true. So, I just wanted to talk about that J-Money was banned for the rest of Season 4 because there was a back and forth between BBM and J-Money. But they both cleared it out and everything is clear now. This is a huge blow because J-Money was our best player up to that point. I also have no idea how to feel about this week either. On one hand, I want to be on an undefeated team, and it's also a nice flex to be on one of the most dominant teams of all time. But on the other hand, this is week 7. It's a week 7 match that doesn't matter other than the pad stats. I decided to be wild this week and try a team style that almost never works for singles. Bane of Haste. Bane of Haste is a move that makes your slower Loomians go first over faster ones. And these slower Loomians tend to have better offensive and bulk stats compared to their faster counterparts. I found some great mons to build a Bane of Haste core around, with Infernix, Gargoyle on defense, and Icicle as my Bane of Haste setters, and Valkyrie, Poganosh, Festifer, and Moriel as my Bane of Haste attackers. I originally had Odiago on the team, not only as a Bane of Haste attacker, but as a Bane of Haste sweeper, but it just never worked. It's hard to get going, and it didn't do as much damage compared to the other mons, so I decided to drop it. I am ready for my rematch versus BBM, but he apparently isn't ready versus me. So, alright. Before I talk about the battle, I need to talk about how BBM aired me all week. We originally were having the battle on Tuesday of that week, but BBM delayed for Friday, so we delayed it for Friday, and then I had an interview for my new job that day. So I delayed it for an hour. I get home from my interview, decided to try to battle then, and BBM was like, no, let's do it on Saturday. And then on Saturday, he aired me once again until 10:30 p.m. on the final day of the week. I should have just taken the air win on that spot, but unfortunately I was too nice and decided to battle anyway, despite getting aired by BBM all week. I did build another team to beat BBM, because I did notice that a lot of his teams do lose to offensive Silver Stratosaur. But the thing is, we already lost week 7 up to this point, and I decided to try the Bane of Haste team versus BBM, even though I knew it was not going to work. And as expected, the Bane of Haste team got clapped. BBM used the typical Metamance team, with Valkyrie, Phage Knot, Pyrolin, Luminami, Garbanzes. And I simply couldn't set up Bane of Haste safely, and I would lose week 7, leaving my record to 3-2. And the Valkyries went 2-5 that week, but giving us the first loss of the season. This loss stung. Despite it being a meaningless loss on paper, the way I lost to BBM, losing one of our best players on the team that week, and all the smack talk BBM would do afterwards, made losing this week sting. This league wasn't just about winning the title anymore. It was to make BBM lose. We would get our replacement for J-Money in the name of Cool Bros, a former Loomian Legacy pro who has won tournaments in the past, and he proved to be the perfect player to pick up at the time. Not only was he such a good addition for playoffs, but he's also a really good coach as well. He's also someone that could win games by themselves, as he would actually be undefeated going into playoffs. He would actually be undefeated in playoffs, which is insane. After the regular season, I ended with an individual record of 3-2 and a team record of 5-1. We will get the bye week for the first round of the playoffs, and everyone on our win is given a free win due to the bye week. With my record improved to 4-2 heading to the semifinals, I have one goal in mind, making sure that it's us that wins the league, and not the Thawmans. For the semifinals, the Flawless Falkyries rematch versus the Sachi Snipers, and the opponent I face is someone I am very familiar with. In fact, he's so familiar that he is someone that I talk to in the Faraverse almost every day. His name is Delilah, aka Zijin. Zijin is a very tricky player to play against. He's one of the most aggressive players I have ever seen play the game, and he reads opponents like an open book. That doesn't even mention that he is also a past Ace winner, an Endhive winner as well. No matter what happens, this battle will be the battle of the ages. When me and Zijin battled, the week was tied 1-1. This game is a momentum turner on whoever wins this week is probably going to win semifinals. I was originally going to use my Thawman team versus Zijin, but it performed so poorly during warm-ups, I decided to go back to my Strong Gust team again, but replaced Chartiki with Luminami. I won my warm-up battle, and I was like, alright, this team feels very good, let's fight Zijin with this team. He uses a bulky balance team, with Rancidor, Morphezu, and Tyrex and Plasmoth as a defensive core. Unlike the last 3 matchups I had, which were pretty much auto-loss on the spot, this matchup was actually even. Maybe even a little bit in my favor. I decide to lead Tyrex on Zijin's Rancidor, giving me a good start to the battle. I will summarize this battle because the first 40 minutes of this battle wasn't too interesting. I took out his Rancidor early due to do or die chip. I kept Chartiki on the field with Provoke and Malevolwax. Well, my Malevolwax's Provoke stops the Chartiki from losing hazards, and I had a huge lead. But Zijin predicted a Thunder Chomp Tyrex onto my Luminami to get back into the game. Zijin would continue to outplay me until we get into a 3-3 situation, 40 minutes into the match. And to everyone's horrors, sudden death starts. After 40 minutes, if both teams are tied with the same amount of Loomians, the game goes into sudden death. And what sudden death is, that the next person to knock out a Loomian wins. This is horrible, especially in a league where you only have 1 battle per week. A 40-minute time limit basically makes it so you can't play slow. And that doesn't even mention that in these VCs, there are 8 other people coaching you and calling out plays that you wouldn't even really consider on the spot. The reason why this battle got a time limit is because me and Zijin took so long to make our moves, to make sure our moves were right. Instead of sacking them on and getting into a position to win, now both me and Zijin have to find a way to knock out Amon without losing one of our own. It starts with me switching Whipple into Tyrex, and Zijin switching Tyrex into Plasmoth. Plasmoth then rejuvenates back into full, but Tyrex gets Plasmoth down 40% of its HP. With the Plasmoth out of energy, Zijin switched Plasmoth out of Chartiki, while I switched Tyrex to Sober Stragodine. I then set up a Piece of Mind, while Zijin switches Chartiki out of Tyrex. Zijin then switches Tyrex out to Plasmoth, as Egg Onslaught gets Plasmoth down to low range HP. Plasmoth is too low, and another Egg Storm takes it down, making me win the match. Despite that though, I played out the rest of the battle because why not? Tyrex knocks out the Dragodyne, Chartiki lives, Whipple drifts Typhoon because of course Chartiki is fat, and Zijin's Tyrex beats my Tyrex, meaning, yeah, Zijin technically won the battle, but because of the timer rules and the league rules, Zijin does not get the win. Instead, I get the win for the week because I won the sudden death. Now, to be fair, if the timer rules didn't happen, I probably would have won because you know, I would have just sacked Whipple Drift and then go into Dragodyne and win on the spot. But it's also the same thing on Delilah's side as well, as he just sacks Chartiki and then goes into Tyrex and gets a knockout. But still, either way, the existence of the stupid timer rules and the time limit for a battle that we do once every week in a league pretty much just costed a match for Delilah. All because of the timer rules. Zijin gets robbed of the win, and I go 5-2 for the season. The Falkyries use that momentum to get a 4-1 lead, and while the Sachi Snipers make a comeback and make the week 4-3, Pan absolutely clutches up his battle, and the Flawless Falkyries head into the finals. This is the first time I have ever been in finals of a competitive Loomian Legacy tournament, and I am happy to do it with the Flawless Falkyries. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have made it to this point. Unfortunately for us, our finals opponent is a team we are very familiar with, and they are also the team that we have been rivals with all season. The Thalman Trailblazers, aka BBM's team. Facing BBM's team for a third time is really, really bad for us. Not only because they beat us last time, but apparently he also rigs his own league. In the semifinals, the Kanto Shrooms were coming back and BBM rigged an air win for his team to get his team into the finals over the Shrooms. And it doesn't help that he is one of the hardest people to communicate with as well. He originally wanted to battle me again, but when the matchups were released, he didn't want them. We used the first couple of days just to decide on who we face going into finals, and none of them were accepted by BBM. So Skeptile, who's one of the refs in the Ace server, decided to pick the matchups based on time zones, which is really convenient for everyone. This will make it so we can have our own battles within our respective time zones. But BBM said no yet again. We needed to randomize matchups, and finally BBM accepts the matchups. My opponent I face is Leslie. They are a good player haunted by being on a team with bad team synergy. Last week, they were told to make a game-losing play by BBM, and when they lost on that play, Leslie was blamed for the loss. I bet 100% that they will bring Metamance because usually Leslie brings other people's teams, which is the team with, you know, Phage Knot, Tyranics, and Chartiki on it. I decided to team build for this team, but nothing works. This meta is too optimized, and I cannot beat every version of the Metamance team. It got down to a point that I needed to ask for help. I asked Nico for some teams, but none of them really fit my playstyle, and none of them really looked that good for me. So I decided to go outside of the Flawless Falkyries team to be given a team that will give me a chance to win. The player that I decided to talk to was Pid, my former rival, the current best player in all of Loomian Legacy. It's someone who is also rooting for the Falkyries to win, even joining the Falkyries VCs during the playoffs. The team he made was a hyper-offensive team that has 2 electric types, 2 light types, and 4 Loomians with priority moves. The star of the show is Dakuda, who is not Soul Burst, but instead Power Cuffs. This Dakuda does extreme damage while also having some insane coverage to hit the entire meta. And with Lachette falling out of favor in this meta, not many teams can switch into a well-played Dakuda. Ikazune was next, and it was a Boots Ikazune with Jolt instead of Thunderstrike, and Energy Surge instead of Blaze of Glory. This Ikazune can hit those pesky ancient types, while also still being fast enough to pivot out of bad matchups. Soul Nectar returns, but instead of a defensive item like Milkshake or Health Amulet, I go for offensive item like Web Shell. This makes it so I can Oko a Mon. This makes it so I can Oko non-restrictive shield Tyranics after a Magnify, and it can also do some extreme damage to Chartiki as well. Phage Nut is here because it's the best Loomian in this meta, and this is also there to check Loomians like Metagon, Garbantus, and Brittlesore. I literally have nothing else on my team that can switch into Brittlesore, so I'm going to be relying on Phage Nut to switch into it. It also has double pivot, Jolt for priority, and Rant to hit Chartiki. Gargolem Attack is next. With the Clutch Plushie item, it makes it so I can always survive at least one hit, and its insane coverage makes it very dangerous in the late game. Falkyrie is also here because as a Falkyrie, I need to use Falkyrie in the final. This is your typical Falkyrie set, except I dropped Holy Slash for Metal Blast. This makes it so it can actually deal a little bit of extra damage to opposing plant types and opposing ice types. The final Loomian I added on the team was Mutagon, and this is here to soak hits while also dealing heavy damage in return. I do warm-ups with the team Pid built me, and it feels good, but I saw some flaws with the team. No Flash and Flame immunities makes the team extremely weak to Phage Nut and Tyrannic's clicking Flash and Flame, so I decided to drop Mutagon for Nevermare. But Nevermare struggles because it doesn't do that much damage. I adjust my game and Nevermare does make some clutch plays, but an hour before my match versus Leslie begins, I noticed one critical flaw. My team was basically auto-lost to Rush Hour Brancata. Brancata outspeeds everything, is immune to Jolt, and can knock out almost all of my Loomians in one hit. No power legs needed, so I decided to replace Nevermare for Chartiki. Chartiki is legit the perfect mon to add to the team, and despite it going up against the point of a hyper-offensive team, adding this felt needed for Brancata. Well, at least I felt like we needed it. I decided to talk to Nico on this, and he didn't want me to use Chartiki, as he trusts that Mutagon would do a lot more for the team, and the lack of the Flash and Flame immunity on Brancata can be outplayed. I was 50-50 on this, and this is a decision that could ultimately decide on who wins the Ace League. My brain says Chartiki is better, my team says Mutagon is better. What do I do? Trust my gut, or trust my team? I made a decision. I decided to trust my team. While yes, Brancata and Tyrannics are a nightmare matchup for me, I believe that Mutagon can do some heavy damage into certain teams, and can win on its own against a lot of the slower teams. Plus, my team, the Flawless Falkyries, is a huge reason I got to finals to begin with. Nico coaching everyone, LNF team building teams we can use, Pan clutching up every match, Kilson being there, and everyone else winning their battles. I trust my team that they will put me in the best position. I decide to lock it in. I use Mutagon on my finals team. The finals start. Kilson loses game 1 to a brutal Soulburster Up the Dawn comeback. The kill wins his game, tying the series 1-1, but a kill upsets L and F, giving the Falkyries the lead yet again. Despite that, epically, the Thauman's top player loses to Segmented, making the series 2-2. We would lose game 5 with a very similar team I will bring to Leslie, leading to us being down 3-2 in the finals with only 5 games left. Even worse, we only have 1 day left to do our battles, so whatever happens on this day will decide who wins the finals of Ace Season 4. Pan plays in Game 6, and he had an auto-loss matchup. His team is extremely weak to Ferroglyph and Gargolem Attack, but he outplays his opponent. It somehow clutches out Game 6. I have no idea how he won Game 6 when Ferroglyph and Gargolem Attack was basically an auto-loss, but Pan, like I said, is built different, tying the series 3-3. Nico then played Stelik, and Nico wins a close game versus Stelik because, you know, Stelik in a critical game, unfortunately, doesn't ever perform. Our team finally has the lead in the finals, and me and Cool Bros will play our match at exactly the same time. We have our chance to end this season right now, with us being champions. My final match against Leslie starts, and they have no Tyrannics, no Brancata. They do have Gargolem Attack and Silver Stratosaur though, so those mons are going to do some good damage to the team. Leslie is also using a Venovent core, which is a defensive core with 2 of the bulkiest mons in the game. He also has Festifer, which trust me, this Festifer is going to be very annoying in this match. I lead a Kazune onto his Festifer, a lead that looks amazing for me. Right? Wrong! Because it's a trap. The reason why I know that this is a trap is because these are the same teams that faced each other in Game 5. Ash used the very team I was using and lost because his Festifer lived a Ikazune's Fire Breath because of Flame Pearl, and then the Earthquake from the Festifer OHKOs the Ikazune in return. If this is the same team, then I don't want to go for Fire Breath losing Ikazune to turn 1, so I decide to go for Zip Zap, but Leslie reads me and goes Garbantis, blocking my Zip Zap. I switch Ikazune out with the Phage Knot, which takes a Battering Ram. We both stay in as Garbantis' Battering Ram crits, of course, bringing Phage Knot down to 70 HP. Phage Knot's Flash and Flee does get rid of a third of Garbantis' health though, so that's good, and I pivot back into Ikazune. This turn is really important, as Leslie has Venolens in the back that can soak a Fire Breath very easily, so I should Zip Zap to pivot out. But if Garbantis stays in, then Zip Zap is blocked and I fall very far behind in the match. I decide to call the safe play and call Fire Breath on Garbantis. And Leslie stays in as Garbantis gets OHKO'd by Ikazune's Fire Breath. Leslie was told to stay in by Wakey, predicted me to click Zip Zap. When this play happened, the entire Thalmon's VC left the call. Not only do I have a big lead, but the entire team has lost their entire morale for the rest of the fight. Leslie switches Ventation into Ikazune, who is locked into Fire Breath. I switch into Valkyrie as I see this as a chance to win the battle on the spot, but Leslie reads this as they go into Venolens. Despite this, Magnify is still free. I click Magnify twice on the Venolens as Venolens gets me down to 92 HP on Valkyrie, while also getting a poison on me. I then click +4 Nova Blast with the combination of the Shine Pearl, OHKO's Venolens in one hit. Leslie then switches Phage Knot in to threaten my Phage Valkyrie with Jolt, but I switch Valkyrie out into Ikazune, as Leslie even reads into this. It doubles into Festifer. I Zip Zap on the Festifer, giving me a switch into Kuda, and Festifer's Earthquake does exactly 50 damage on the dot. I then click Slapdown on the Festifer, but the Leslie switches into Ventation as I slap off his heavy armor. Leslie keeps Ventation in on Dakuda, predicting that my Dakuda is locked into Slapdown. But since I am Power Cuffs Dakuda, I click Thunderstrike and drop Ventation's HP down to red. And from there, I knew I had an easy win. Torrential Slash was free as Phage Knot cannot take 2 of them, Ventation is too low to live, and even if the Festifer switches in, one Slapdown gets it into Ikazune range. I call the Torrential Slash play as Leslie switches into Phage Knot, and it takes 2/3 of its HP. I switch Ikazune into Phage Knot Zip Zap, and Fire Breath always claims a KO here. I Fire Breath Leslie's Phage Knot, and it knocks it out in one hit. Leslie decides to bring in Festifer again, and I Fire Breath the Festifer, confirming the Flame Pearl. Festifer lives with half HP left, and the Earthquake OHKOs my Ikazune. This puts everything in the Gargoylem attack range, and 2 Rogue Assaults wins me the game. This win was huge. Not only does this give me a 6-2 record for the season, but this more importantly gives my team a 5-3 lead in finals. And one more win gives us the Ace Season 4 title. I immediately jump VC, watching Kubro's battle, and it's one of the closest endgames I've ever seen. It's a 39 HP Verenalsaur up against a low HP Chironix and Phage Knot. Kubro's Verenalsaur knocks out Chironix, and the entire league is down to if Verenalsaur lives Phage Knot's Jolt. Yes! We win!
Y'all got it. Y'all got it.
We win finals! We're the winners! We're the winners! We're the winners! We did it! That's it!
That was the closest battle ever, man. That was
What a way to end it! Cool bros, let's go! The Verenalsaur lives Jolt, and its Primal Slash knocks out the Phage Knot, as your Flawless Falkyries are your Ace Season 4 champions! So that's it! That's how I won a massive tournament. But there's a little more to the story. This tournament has given me the confidence to join more tournaments in the future. I have just signed up for Ace Season 5 and N-Hype Season 3. So expect more big videos in the future if y'all want to find out how I do on my competitive Loomian Legacy journey. The price for the Ace Season 4 tourney is $40, which BBM still hasn't paid me yet, or anyone of the Flawless Falkyries yet. Let's just say he didn't take the loss well, but instead of talking about BBM losing, let's talk about the fact that I was able to somehow win a huge Loomian Legacy tournament with the help of my team. Special thanks to everyone on the Flawless Falkyries for helping me reach to this point. And also special thanks to Pid and the Faraverse for rooting for me every match I was in. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to be in this position to begin with. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if y'all want to join these competitive Loomian Legacy Leagues, be ready, because these league matches are stressful and will require high-level play to stand a chance. So, be ready for the unexpected. Expect more of these kind of videos in the future, because I have joined Endhive Season 3 and Ace Season 5, which will both require their own videos. So yeah, that's the end of the video. We are the winners, and we will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!